Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Deborah Eckerling, creator of the Deb Method for Goal Setting Simplified. I'm also the author of Your Goal Guide and 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting. You can't reach your goals on your own. You need your people. So every week I bring together some of my people to have a nice chat. And as I'm also a food writer and food podcaster, it is inevitable that every other month or so, or sometimes less than that, we have something that focuses on food, because why not, right? Food is food not like the best thing to talk about everywhere? I'm excited. And this topic of plant-based business evolved because I ran into one of my guests today, Terri Freedman, at the SoCal Restaurant Show. And I love the story, and I probably have shared it, but I'm going to share it again because it's that good. Is I was just remarking in the mirror in the ladies' room that it was so funny that the Fit Expo was right next door to the SoCal Restaurant Show. And all of a sudden I hear Deborah, and I look over. Yes, Deborah Eckerling. Yes, it's Terri. Terri and I worked together like 20 years ago, ish, or very close to 20 years ago, when we were both working in a corporate setting. And that was fun. So I had a conference buddy. And through the course, I met Danny O'Malley, who is, and I still have his swag.
Yay!
Yay! From his plant-powered before the butcher, fake meat. I don't know. We don't call it fake meat. Anyway, and I'm like, great, you guys need to be on my show. And then Marisa, who I've interviewed on Taste Buds with Zeb, I just reached out and I said, do you want to have a fun conversation with strangers? And of course she said yes. So Marisa is a vegan kosher sushi chef. Terry's got Eat a Healthy Crafty, so craft services. You'll talk more about it. And Danny has this plant-based empire. Is it empire? Empire adjacent. You're working on building a plant-based empire.
Exactly. Yeah, plant-based meat company works, but if you want to call it an empire, I won't dissuade you from it.
We're all about the goals, thinking big. But I love that you've all fallen into not just a niche, but a niche that you are all very passionate about. So you may be watching us as Goalchat Live. You might be watching the replay. You might be listening to us as Goalchat on the Marketing Podcast Network. But no matter how you found us, we are so glad you're here, because we love to talk about food and, of course, goals and all the other things. And I'm just so lucky to have you all today. And because now people only know that you're awesome and know very little else, I would love to give you each an opportunity to introduce yourselves better. So, Marisa, who are you?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Deborah, for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation, and I know it's going to be a lot of fun. So, about me, I am a plant-based sushi chef, and I'm very recent to the plant-based world. I actually am was trained, with all of the things that you think of with sushi about 20 something years ago. And I just kind of recently had a moment where I had an epiphany, and that led me down this plant-based path.
It's not a bad path, right?
No, it's fantastic.
And we're going to go into your sushi backstory in a moment, because it's awesome how you got started. And like I said, I interviewed you on Taste Buds, so spoiler alert, I know the answer to this question. Terri, so happy to have you on here, and really excited to chat food with you. And I don't think you were doing this when we were working together in the Uh-Ohs in corporate financial services life.
Yeah, I started my vegan journey in 2009, but I hadn't married my work life with my personal values, as it were, until much, much later. So I finally started my own food service business in craft service, which, for people who may not be familiar, basically for film productions, TV commercials, film, the people on the crew work very long days. And so in addition to catering, there's also an additional snack, coffee, beverage array for people working really hard for really long hours. And generally that's referred to as craft service. And so that's something that I found myself, I kind of happenstanced into. And I started with craft service, and it wasn't until I even was just doing it for about a year or so that I stopped to think, I'd really like to incorporate my personal values into, what I'm helping share with other people. So that's when I made my launched my company in 2018 and made it a plant forward craft service for people, allergy friendly, and general, just helping people access healthier snacks on film productions when they're working really long days.
Yeah, there's got to be something to the health benefits, right? Of eating food that's better for you. And I mean, we love our cookies and our candy and all that, but the healthy thing, I'm sure there's like science or something behind it, right?
Yeah, to have like really nutritious packed ingredient snacks, not just things that will spike your sugar or sodium levels, leading to, crashes in energy. You need to sustain your energy when you're physically exerting yourself, let alone on your feet often, for these people who are working on an average 12 hours a day. So it's just super beneficial for everybody to have access to foods that contain, really good nutrition, different vitamins, whole foods ingredients, things like that, and allergy friendly for people who have a diversity of dietary needs as well. And unfortunately, that's not necessarily the standard. So that's something that I can help bring to different productions.
Awesome. I love that your niche is your beliefs, because come on, I mean, my niche is goals, and no one believes in goals more than I do. But when you have the ability to bring all the parts of you, the things that you love, together and offer a service, I think it's win-win for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Danny, welcome.
Yes. Thank you.
Who are you?
I've been asking that for years, but I can give you my best guess. And,
Okay. Yeah, just take a stab at
it. I'll take you back just a short while, because if I take you back to the beginning, we will take the entire hour. So about 11 years ago, I started working for a plant-based meat company called Beyond Meat. I'm sure you guys know who they are. I worked there for a couple of years and decided that I thought I could do something just like that and even better. And so I started my own plant-based meat company back in 2017. So I've been on this journey for about 11 years now, about 8 years, a little over 8 years with my own company. And I am also plant-based myself. So I'm actually, believe it or not, the only one in my company that is vegan. So, and that's not a bad thing for what we do, because we look to educate and give people an opportunity to eat plant-based and still feel comfortable, like they're eating comfort food, something that they're familiar with, and the products we make take you on that journey.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool. Okay, so people who know me know that I am not a vegan. I'm not even close to a vegan. But I have the utmost respect for what first of all, I know you're all good people, so we've got that going for us. But I love this desire to make it almost like user friendly. I mean, it's not plant forward or plant based. It is just yummy food that makes you feel good.
Right.
Okay. Did I dig myself out of that hole good enough, I hope?
Yes. You didn't start very good, but you got out of it very nicely.
Sometimes it takes you a while.
With this every single day, we have these conversations, I think, and it's a good conversation. Actually, it's a great conversation.
The conversation about
how people eat.
Yeah. Well, and so for my show Taste Buds, it's about the intersection of food, cooking, and community, because they all really go hand in hand. What got you into the food space to begin with? And Marissa, I already, teed you up. It's a great story. So what got you into the food business and or your specialty?
Do you want the long version or the short version? The short version is the request from a cute boy.
That's a good version.
That's a good version. No, I actually, so at a very young age, I was very lucky to have my parents back me in a very, small cafe. And I did catering, and it was very Southern and just kind of Southern upscale. And I had someone ask me, a very good client of mine ask if I could cater a dinner party. And I'm like, sure, I'll cater. What are we having? And he says, we're having sushi. And I'm like, that sounds amazing. Let's do that. And as he leaves the restaurant, everyone's looking at me, my entire staff, like, are you crazy? Like, do you even know what that is? And I was like, no, of course I don't. Like, I'd never eaten sushi. I'd never seen sushi except on TV. Lived in a small town in Mississippi, of all places. So there was no sushi bar that I could run over and, have a reference for. So I had to go to the library and check out a bunch of books because, there wasn't like a big Google database either of how to make sushi. So, kind of had to figure some things out and discovered in the process that I absolutely this was the coolest thing ever. And I had to learn more, and I wanted to become a sushi chef. And so I told everyone in my small Mississippi town, I'm going to become a sushi chef. And they're just like, oh, bless your heart. Like, I just didn't know that like women didn't do that. I didn't know that Black women didn't do that. I just didn't know what I didn't know. But I was very fortunate to find this amazing culinary school specifically for sushi in Los Angeles. And I went there and became a certified sushi chef. And that's how I ended up in sushi.
And you got to vegan at how?
So after so many years of just, being in the sushi industry, and I will say that, my first few years in, I did run across some people who were very much into seafood sustainability, and we had some conversations, and I was like, oh yes, this is a no-brainer. Like, we don't want to serve things that are, potentially going to go extinct or, bringing things from halfway around the world, because that's not in the spirit of Japanese cuisine. And so that's kind of always been just in the back of my mind. And I found that I had a lot of creativity with vegetarian sushi. And so I kind of leaned in that direction as well. And then a couple of years ago, I was invited to be a contestant on season 2 of Morimoto's Sushi Master. And I went onto the show, and because I've always wanted to meet Morimoto. I mean, he's like my sushi idol. And I think from the very moment I stepped onto the soundstage and saw a whole bluefin tuna laying on the table, I was just like, I don't know how I feel about all of this. And when I left the show, I knew that was it. No more making sushi with any sort of seafood or any sort of meat product whatsoever.
Wow, that's quite a light bulb.
Mm-hmm.
So was your story any less or more dramatic, Terri?
Mine was more gradual. So I'd say my plant-based journey began with a Craigslist post, to be honest. I'm from the Bay Area, so Craigslist is more of a thing up there as far as like reading different community posts, especially at that time. And someone made some comment about just rants in the rants and raves section about, hey, you wouldn't if most people had to actually kill the animal that they wanted to eat, they wouldn't do it. And I looked at that and I pondered it, and for me, I'm a pacifist. I agreed. And so I thought, maybe I should walk the talk and I'll become vegetarian or start with not eating turkey or chicken or things like that. And it was also a season of mad cow disease at the time, so I kind of stopped eating hamburgers anyway. And so I kind of had this vegetarian thing going on, and I moved to LA, and I met a lot of great vegans who initially I perceived as the vegan movement as just being really, aggressive, in your face, judgmental, things like that. But the people I was meeting weren't like that. And then a friend of mine opened this restaurant that ended up becoming very successful called Sun Cafe. And I went just as a matter of supporting my friend. And the food was so good that I wasn't missing anything. I thought, well, this most closely aligns with my values, and I don't feel deprived. So let's give this a shot. Let's give this 30 days. And so I gave myself a 30-day challenge, and it was a little tough adjusting, especially because I was one of those people who said I would never go vegan because of the cheese. I was that person. And within a couple weeks, you might call it detox, but I lost the craving for it. And I just was like, oh, it's not something I thought I did need. Especially when I found something that was more personally important for me. And I just said, okay, let's just keep going. And so now it's been 16 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it all started with a 30-day challenge. Good on you.
From someone who said they would never be vegan. So you never know where life will take you.
Yes, you are the picture next to never say never, right? And so, Danny, were you vegan before you started working for Beyond Meats, or what led you into the plant-based life?
No, I was not. And I actually grew up in the Midwest, in Wisconsin. So believe me, Terry, I know about cheese. Because I went from one cheese state to the other, and both think they're the best, from Wisconsin to California. So I get the cheese thing. No, I started at Beyond Meat, and I wasn't. Now I had already stopped eating meat, but I still ate chicken and seafood was. I love seafood, so that was the last thing I gave up. It actually was a challenge from a friend of mine, and we were at another friend's gym working out, and he says, "Let's do a 90-day challenge to work out, 5 days a week and get in good shape." And I said, "Okay, I'll do that with you." And he was a little heavy set, so I was kind of doing it for him. And he said, "Well, why don't you go vegan during this 90 days?" So don't challenge me, by the way, because I'll take that challenge. So I said, okay, I'm kind of doing this for you, but yeah, I'll give it a try. And so throughout my adult life, I've always had borderline high cholesterol. And so I thought, let me go in and check my cholesterol and do all the tests and everything before I do this 90-day challenge. And so I went in my doctor, and the same thing. The doctor calls me up, I think the next day, and says, "Danny, your cholesterol is borderline high. We should start thinking about putting you on some statins." And I said, "Doc, I'm in good shape. I'm not going to do this." So the interesting thing is mine was a 90-day challenge. I applaud you for the 30-day challenge and jumping in there like that. But the hardest thing was really just making those adjustments, even though I wasn't vegetarian, but I didn't eat a lot of animal protein at the time that I made the change. So it wasn't a huge leap, but it was a change. Yeah, I spent a lot of time prepping because at the beginning it was challenging, and you learn over time. And I know all of us have been plant-based for a while, so now it just is a normal routine for us. We know what to do, where to go, and when we go somewhere that doesn't seem to have options, there are always options. I always say there are always options. Talk to your server, talk to your chef, talk to whomever, and likely they're going to tell you what you can eat that's plant-based. But I got through the 90 days, and it got easier as I went along. And at the end of it, my cholesterol dropped 70 points. Which is massive, right? So I went from borderline high to really great cholesterol. And I felt good. I mean, I slept better. your body, and I'm sure it's the same for you women as well. Your body basically flushes out every single day. You don't have that constipation problem like you have with meat. You just feel lighter and better, and it's just it's a lifestyle though, and that's the thing I'll emphasize. This is not a diet for us. It's not a diet. This is how we live our life. This is a lifestyle. And that's the biggest difference, I think. A lot of people, I think they say, what, 93% of diets fail? It's because it's not part of your lifestyle. You have to live it one way, and we live it. So we've been doing this for years. It's not like I became vegan a year ago, and the same with Marisa and Terri. They've been plant-based for years, and it's just a natural thing for us today. And that's where you have to get. There's a little bit of a battle getting there, but look, no matter what your diet is, unless you eat anything and everything, you have some restrictions.
And not only have you embraced this as a lifestyle, which I love, you have chosen to make it your business. So it's not just you, okay, this makes me feel good, it's who I am, but it's also a message that you're sending to the world by leaning into it in work as well.
Well, look, when I turned 50, and I'm 50 and a half now. No, I'm just kidding. When I turned, so it just happened. No, when I turned 50, I looked at my life and I said, I've checked off a lot of boxes, right? But I still felt empty, like there was something missing, and I needed to figure out what that was. And I just didn't feel like I had accomplished what I wanted to accomplish in my life. I also determined at 50 that I was only halfway through my life. So the better half was coming. And the better half told me that I need to do something for myself rather than do things for everybody else in my life. And those can be conjunction. You can do those together, right? So I ran 12 marathons in 12 months when I turned 50. And a lot of people said I was crazy.
You just blew your age math, by the way, but that's okay. But that's amazing. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So after that, I knew that I knew that I didn't need to put the black and white restrictions in my life, that our lives are really built around gray, and we need to decide what that gray is going to be, what's going to work for us. Because it's not what works for you, Deb, or Marisa or Terri. It's what works for me, right? If I don't take care of me first, I can't take care of all the people that are important in my life. So that was my decision at 50, was to move forward and start delving further into the gray of my life rather than the black and white, like, hey, you do this, then you do that, and then you do this, and then you do that. It doesn't have to be that way. And so after I turned 52, I said, look, I'm going to start a new career, and so I did. I started working for Beyond. And then I said, no, I got to do something for myself. And I started my own business.
And that's why I love, goals as the umbrella of everything that I talk about so much. It's our life. It's our choice. If we don't like what life is, guess what? We can make decisions. We can embrace change. My book that came out in January, 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting, is based upon this premise. Secret to success is there is no one secret, but you can see what works for other people and decide which of those things to incorporate into your life to make your life better, to reach your goals, etc.
I built everything around one thing, and that's lifestyle, my lifestyle, what I wanted to live, not what other people thought I should be living or what I thought other people wanted me to live, but what I wanted to live. And for me, it became surrounded by plant-based, because that worked for me. It made me feel better about myself, about what I was doing, about the conversations like we're having today. It makes me feel good.
Okay, so lifestyle is your key. What about you, Marisa? What is the center of the way that you look at things?
I would say that everything is very driven by creativity. And, when I first told so many of my chef friends that, hey, Yeah, so I'm gonna start doing plant-based sushi, and they were just like, "Well, that's going to be kind of boring." And I was like, "Actually, I think it actually might be more interesting than than what people normally think of as sushi, because there are so many plants." There are so many plants and there are so many things. And when you look at it from that perspective of what is it, for me, it's not about what am I taking away, it's about what I'm adding. And so with more traditional, or what people think of as traditional sushi, that's a whole other story and a whole other ball game. But when you think of things like tuna or salmon, you really kind of become limited, because that's going to form the bulk of what you're creating. But when you take that away and look at all of these other things that I have to create, then you actually start getting into this territory of just inventing new things. And it's, for me, it's just like, sometimes I can't tame it, because there's just so much. I'm like, ooh, I can do this, I can do that. And for me, creativity is something that was kind of waning towards the end there, when I was kind of winding down, becoming my chef career. And I think a lot of chefs go through kind of a burnout, and I think that maybe creativity might be a part of that reason. I just kind of felt boxed in. So for me, it's like, now I've got it's like a whole new world, and I'm seeing things very differently and very new again.
I love that. And like I said, because I interviewed you on Taste Buds, I know that the first time that you had to serve sushi, all you had was your creativity,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's like a full circle moment for me now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is so awesome. What about
Mhm.
you, Terry? What is your through line? What guides you?
I would say it comes down to authenticity and value alignment.
Mhm.
So, in any decision I make for my business, I decide if it's something that resonates with me. And I find that there's a lot more people who are like minded, as much as I might feel like maybe my thoughts are, too unique, or maybe people won't get it. There's actually a lot of people who resonate with, the things that I value as well. I'm also lucky to work in a large market like Los Angeles, so that's definitely an added benefit. But
Mhm.
it's, yeah, when I'm deciding what kinds of things I want to offer with my business, I just go out and look for things that I think I would want for myself. Like Dana was saying, like, what would I want with my lifestyle? What would I have in my home is something I would put on my craft service table to offer to others.
And I remember when we were going through the food show, you were stopping at every single socially responsible booth to see what they had to offer. And you could tell that you were looking at it not from a business owner, but from a consumer standpoint.
Mhm.
So I love in authenticity. It's like one of those words that's it's not a dirty word, but everybody, it's like so overused that you're like, okay, what, how do I be authentic? No, you don't be authentic. You just are
Are
authentic.
authentic.
And I think in being yourself, rather than, putting yourself in the position of the consumer, I think that really is how you lean in to providing the best for your people.
Yeah, because it's easy to look out at, say the competition and say, oh, what's the most popular? Let me just do that. Okay, but then you're just another person who does what everybody else does.
Mm.
Whereas when I put forward the things that are important to me, I'm one of the very few that offer that.
Yes. But again, this is a panel of people who are themselves all the time, not just at home or in the kitchen or preparing what have you. Um, and it's such a niche. I'm just calling it as it is. And it's also very specific. So in what ways has having this plant forward or plant-based specialty, how has it helped you? And how has it been a challenge for you? Marissa?
Yeah, so I will say that it definitely helped me by kind of reigniting my passion and my love for cooking and my creativity, because that's something that's very important to me. I really enjoy just experimenting with new things, but I think the biggest challenge with it has been, you know, explaining it to other people. Because there's already all this kind of lore around what sushi is and what sushi isn't, and so the minute that you say that there's absolutely no fish involved, they're like, well, wait, is it even sushi? And so I think that for me the biggest challenge is just really educating people about what sushi is in general, and just kind of maintaining my position on um, how I still feel like this is more in line with tradition than some of the things that are being done in restaurants today.
You're absolutely right. It sounds like an oxymoron,
Mm-hmm.
but it is not.
It is not. It is not.
That's pretty awesome. Okay, Danny, same question.
Ditto. I agree
Okay.
100%. Look, well, it certainly aligns with my lifestyle. It's a part of who I am, and not who I want to be, because it's already who I am. My lifestyle is wrapped around plant-based and staying active and living healthy and happy, and hopefully having other people join me, not necessarily join me as being vegan or plant-based, but just in a healthier lifestyle. And I can tell you, Marissa, I really relate to the part about the education, because when I started almost 12 years ago now, with a different company, that's all I did was educate people. They didn't get what we were doing at all. They could not understand the concept of
Mm-hmm.
making meat from plants that mimicked animal-based proteins. And I mean, the first comment almost always was, well, why don't you just eat a hamburger? Why bother making a hamburger out of plants?
Yeah.
And so it was all about
Yeah.
education. Today it's a little
Yeah.
easier. I mean, I don't spend a lot of time educating people today like I did back then, because most people know something about this, and usually it's like, hey, okay, I'll give it a try, or I'm never going to eat that. I'm a meat eater and I won't eat it. And then a year later they'll come up to me and say, you know what, I've been kind of eating this stuff. Or plant-based, and it's really interesting, because that was probably my biggest challenge too, was just the fact that people didn't know what we were doing and why we were doing it.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, it's amazing how many people today are now willing to try plant-based options, and it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have to be a meat alt like we make, but just a good plant-based dish. And maybe not knowing that they're even eating it, and after they eat it, they're like, wow, that was really great. There's some really great plant-based food out there, just like for people who like animal-based proteins, that food's really good too. But there's also some food that's not so good on both sides, so you got to find the good stuff.
That's right. That's right.
It's about finding the good stuff. And you're in California,
Yeah.
so you don't, I mean, yes, there's a bit of education, but like Terri, you're not in the middle of the South like Marissa.
That's right.
That's true. But I can tell you from my own personal journey, I moved out here when I was a teenager. I didn't know what an avocado was. I didn't know what an artichoke was. I mean, that was all new to me. So everybody, you can't know everything, right? Everybody needs to be educated in some way. As smart as you are, there's something you can learn. And certainly learning about plant-based foods is not a bad thing.
That's right.
It's a good thing. And as you get older, and I'm not saying that I'm old yet, because I'm not, but as you get older, and you go see your doctor, and your doctor says, hey, you need to eat a little better, what is he going to tell you? 99% of the time, he's going to tell you to eat more plant-based, eat more vegetables, almost every single time.
As someone also from the Midwest, so I grew up in the Chicago suburbs, but I went to school in Madison, Wisconsin. Now I get the cheese, dairy, meat lifestyle of where we lived, and it was a different world.
Yeah.
at least growing up in the Chicago suburbs, any like Mexican food, it's
Taco Bell,
nothing.
maybe. I don't know what else.
Yeah.
That was it. That was Mexican food to you.
Well, okay, I have to sidetrack. A friend of mine from college was on a layover here, and I picked her up at the airport, and she wanted to grab a bite to eat. And I said, "What do you want?" And she said, "Mexican food. Can we go for Taco Bell?" And I said, "We're in Los Angeles. We have actual Mexican food, but that's what she wanted." I tried. I couldn't eat it. But
well, Taco Bell is based in my backyard in Irvine, so this is where Taco Bell is from. So.
Yes, but it is not. Can we agree that it is not Mexican food?
It's American Mexican food at best.
We can agree. Yeah, we can agree on that.
Anyway, I'm trying to dig myself out of the anti-Taco Bell hole. Terri, how is that having such a? And I would think living in LA, where we are. You go out on any street and you see people who are healthy and also people who look unhealthy. Clearly, we get everybody here, all shapes, sizes, eating patterns. That being said, we are very health conscious, but I'd imagine that's also good for being here, but also has its challenges.
Yeah, for me, I feel that it's really helped me align with people in my industry who are, like I said before, like-minded. So being able to build partnerships with other people in adjacent sides of my industry that they can then advocate for me. So I've had people help advocate to connect me with clients and productions because they value that, I'm out here doing the hard work of putting out what I value into my work. That does take extra effort. It's not something you can do, absentmindedly. It's a very conscious practice in my business of making all the choices that I do day in, day out. And it also has built me, some nice fans. So when I am brought onto a film production, and there's even just ordinary crew members who are just amazed at the different variety of options that they don't normally see in this field, that when other people go out looking for someone who does my kind of services, they become vocal advocates of, well, did you know about Terri's company? You should check out Terri's company. And so having fans has been a nice, unexpected surprise just by being so, specific in what I do, and to see other people who really value having that afforded for their work as well, because I am a B2B operator. And then there are challenges because there are some people who maybe hear about my work ethic but don't necessarily align with my vision. And so they might try and want to skew things away from being so plant-based. So, sometimes I do make concessions because ultimately, I am running a business. At the end of the day, I have to support myself. So until we live in a perfect world, I do make concessions as a business owner. But I also want to add that as far as my niche, it's also helped me overlap with other areas of interest and values to me. So while I started with being plant forward, it's also helped me marry my values with sustainability. And so maybe clients who aren't as enthusiastic about, plant-based food selection, maybe that's not their jam, but their jam is sustainability, and those things go hand in hand. So it's really helped me broaden my offerings and my outreach, again, just by staying true to myself and sticking to what's important to me.
Well, I do recall I got like an entire education. I was fortunate because every now and then I do a topic that I know very little about, but part of it is the people, but part of it is, I want to know these things. And we are in a time where we really need to be concerned about the planet. I mean, we've had to before, but now it feels like we really, really need to be conscious of what we're doing. And the sustainability factor is super important. Even though it's like we're all doing, even when we only do a little part, it's more than people doing nothing, right?
Absolutely.
So, see, I could be a meat eater and be pro sustainability. It is possible to be all of the things. And so, going back to the niche element, for you all, it isn't. I am not just an advocate. I am a user. For all of you, it is business is personal. I think for all of you, that's a pretty fair statement. Is that what it takes to build a successful niche, or do you have other recommendations for people who want to bring more of who they are into what they do in work?
I think niche building is about your personal identity. I can speak to the film industry when it comes to screenwriters. The number one piece of advice, it's not write what's popular, it's write what you know. And that's what I think marries into any kind of business as well, when you want to be known for something specific.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think to be successful in any business, your best opportunity to get there, even if it is a niche instead of niche, I call it niche, but
Tomato, it's okay.
exactly.
Use whatever words you want. Tomato. Oh, that's on theme. I like that. Okay, keep going.
Okay, then we're gonna do potato. I mean, how far are we gonna go with this? See, it's all plant-based. It comes back to plant-based every single time. Get ready for this.
Theme.
And by the way, Deb, you are plant-based as well. You just add meat to your plant-based, because yeah, I'm sure you eat plants at some point in time in your life, right?
Oh my goodness, I am like the biggest fan of carrots on the planet.
See, that's plant-based. Anyways, I'll refer back here. I have one word for a successful business person, and it doesn't have to be in a niche market or anything like that. And that is passion. If you're passionate about what you do and you have your own personal reasons for doing it that make you passionate and drive you, that drive will make you successful. I didn't go into the business thinking that I would ever fail. I was ignorant to that. It wasn't even in my book at all. I didn't know anything about failure. I assumed it was going to work. Meanwhile, I saw a bunch of my friends go under in the past few years because the industry has been very challenging. But passion is probably the most important thing, I think, behind starting and being successful with any business.
Yeah. And I'm just gonna say that, a lot of times people hear, oh, you have a niche or whatever. And I think that sometimes people equate that with, oh, you're just being small. And I don't think of it that way. I think that when you've really honed in on a niche, you're digging into your passion. And when you're coming at it with passion, you're actually playing really big. And I think that is part of what really brings and drives success.
And it reads.
Yes.
You can see that passion.
Yeah.
And I think even in all three of us here, we're driven by what we believe in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I so agree with you. I like that. I'm going to call myself plant-based plus meat from now on, because that just sounds much nicer than carnivore. But one of the things I do in addition, I am very passionate about goals, but I'm also very passionate about helping people share their voice through books. So I specialize in book proposal strategy. And whenever I'm meeting with a client for the first time or leading a workshop, I say, congratulations, you are now the expert in your field. And even if I get I'm working on it, I say, no, you have to, very much like Danny just claimed, I never thought I could fail. It's not in my playbook. You have to own your niche, own your passion, and live it, breathe it for other people to get on board.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the mission driven, Deb method, the D is determine your mission. you can't get what you want unless you know what that is. When you take the time, when you gift yourself the time to know who you are and what you all are about, then that is the foundation that you build everything else on. So those are my 2, 3, and 4 cents. What do you want to create for yourselves? Do you have, are you future casting? I'm sure Danny is. What impact do you want to make? What do you want to continue to create? Why are you on this very important journey? I'm going to make Terri go first because I know I think you all have the answers, but I believe I'm not going to answer your question. Go.
That's a great question, because I, as such a strongly value-driven person, a dreamer, I want a lot. I want, a lot faster than the world generally operates. So right now my focus is helping spearhead a growing sustainability initiative in the film industry, and that's generally where my focus has been. And being plant forward has been a part of that conversation, but it's for me trying to be a voice to help educate other people who are in film production to adopt a different variety of means to make their film productions, whether it's commercials, TV, streaming series, any level of production, adopt more sustainable choices for people's health, for the environment, for the future. There's lots of different things people can do, and I love what Marisa and Danny were saying about education. We can always be a force for education in a kind and palatable way as well.
Ooh, kindness. I am so surprised that that's the first time that word has come up, because I'm getting the kindness vibe from all of you. So thank you for underlying that, because I think that's part of the whole lifestyle thing, right? Be good to yourself, the planet, and the people around you. You'll be healthier and happier and an advocate for what you do. Marisa, same question. What is future Marisa doing?
Okay, so a lot of what I'm thinking about and working on, even in my little corner with plant-based sushi, I would say that the bigger overreaching goal is there's 2 things really. It's empowerment and joy. So a lot of people feel like sushi is one of those things that's kind of off limits to them. I mean, even outside of being plant-based, in my work before, I was seeing a lot of people that were there was just kind of this cultural narrative that certain people can make sushi for you and it has to be this, and that's just the way it is. And so now that I'm on this plant-based mission, I just kind of want to take a battle axe to that and just chop it all up and really empower people to make their own. And I think that even for people who are not necessarily plant-based, this is very accessible to them, because when you take away this idea that, people automatically think, oh, sushi is raw fish. When you take that away, then they're like, oh, okay, maybe I can do this. But then the other part of that is joy. I think sometimes we get so caught up in trying to make everything so perfect at home when we're doing things, kind of like that Martha Stewart effect. That we lose the joy behind just making good food for ourselves. And part of the other half of my mission is to really just help people at home, just home cooks, just enjoy the process of cooking again. And Terri talked about having people catering to allergies and that sort of thing, and just offering ways that people can take this into their own hands and make it their own.
Anytime anyone uses the word joy, my happy radar goes up, because if you don't love what you're doing, and if it's not emanating from you, why the heck are you doing that? right? Find something
Right.
that lights you up. If this isn't lighting you up, find a different light bulb, as it were.
Mhm.
Danny, what about you? What are you building?
Well, I'm working on another word here because we've got happiness and joy. These are putting smiles on your face, Deborah. So I've got to think of another word before I finish. I'll have one for you to add into those. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I am sharing my journey. I think a lot of things have happened in my life, and some of it's interesting, some of it's not very interesting. So I'm going to share the interesting parts. I've just
Please.
finished writing a book, and the book is called Enter the Gray Zone, the Space Between Black and White.
Mhm.
And there are so many different variations of what's in this book that gives you thought and gets you to think about what's going on in your life and how to. It's what I call a self-improvement lifestyle book. So it talks about plant-based, it talks about activity, it talks about life and death, it talks about a lot of things, but the space that we live in, a lot of us live in, is pretty black and white. What's interesting is the gray, and that's what I talk about in the book,
Mhm.
is the gray. So that's the continuation of the journey that I started when I was 50, when I said, hey, I've got to make a difference. I want to make a difference in the second half of my life, because I just didn't think I made much of an impact, and now I feel like I am, and so I want to share that. So that's where my journey's going.
Well, you said the word book, which is another one of my happy words.
Oh,
so that we're good. But I have to ask, what are you doing with your book?
Well, I literally finished writing it about a
Okay.
week ago. So it's not in book format yet. So I need to take it to that further step and then obviously get it published.
Okay. No, I'm sorry. I will ask you okay, now we're going into my other show, which is the Book Proposal Podcast. Are you planning to self-publish or to traditionally publish?
I don't know.
Do I need to have a conversation with you offline? Because
I think we need to have a separate conversation. I am making some decisions on that as we speak. So
okay, my belief. No, if you have an idea that is life-changing, that you firmly believe in it, I believe that you deserve it to yourself to do a book proposal and try and get it published traditionally so more people have access to it. But I am more than happy to get on my soapbox about that offline at some point. The point being, and all three, Marisa, have you done your cookbook yet?
So I was actually just sitting here thinking, maybe we need to have a conversation, because like Danny, I've had some, some not so interesting experiences, but also some interesting experiences. And I think it might be time to work on a memoir.
Okay. Well, you've got the uniquity, but the thing that I love specifically about how you're reinventing what sushi means,
Mm-hmm.
and then let's pretend like other people aren't listening. But reinventing sushi, but you also reinvented yourself. So I think that in and of itself, to intertwine, I think it could be a cookbook memoir, which is like the best kind, but definitely happy to have a conversation. Can I make you write a book too, Terri?
The pressure's on.
Yeah.
But
everybody's got something to say.
Everybody's got something to say.
Well, and again, we're talking about plant forward, plant-based, whatever words that we're vegan, whatever words we're using. But you guys are a perfect example of what I said before. You are the queens and king of your domain. You love what you do so much that you put all of yourself into your business. Why wouldn't you want to write a book at some point? And I know because Terri and I, we left the expo and then we talked for another 30 minutes, like right outside the parking lot. If you're doing a thing that you're passionate about, why not be all in? Because when you are all in, that's when you begin to make a difference. When you share who you are, what you love, what you do, people can't help but get excited about it. And especially in this need for more sustainability life that we live in, definitely something to think about. But also, you're in the film industry, and if there was ever a good place to have that kind of a niche, it is that.
That's a great point. I limit myself to just doing one-on-one conversations because I know that there's a lot of impact there, but I hadn't even occurred that there's an opportunity in doing a book to just spell it out for people who maybe don't have access to LA or hubs like that. So I'll have to
Wow.
think about that.
Well, I'm gonna give you one other thing to think about. I think a podcast would also be great for you for spreading this as a message, because you love this. People need to learn about it, and that's true for all of you. So now that I've given you all homework, let's give a little bit of a homework to the people who are tuning in. What is something that they can do to either be more plant-based, plant forward, love plants, and or really lean into their passion? I think maybe that's a better way to go. So, but either, dealer's choice. Danny, what goal do you want to gift to the people?
That's a simple one for me.
Okay.
And that's the goal of understanding what your lifestyle is really about.
Okay, so how do people do that?
Well, they do it by being honest with themselves, and honestly think about what and how you want to live your life, how you want to eat, how active you want to be, how you want to feel is probably better than all of that, because all of that feeds into that. Most people, I would think, want to be healthy and happy, right? And so how do you get to that goal? It's understanding what lifestyle is going to work for you. My lifestyle may not work for somebody else. So you have to choose what works for you and keeps you happy. And sometimes that means disassociating yourself from things that don't make you happy. That may be friends, that may be family, that may be food. If certain types of food, even though you like to eat it, make you feel bad, that shouldn't be part of your lifestyle. You should be eating what makes you feel good. Yeah. If you don't like running, why are you running? Right? Go on a bike ride. Figure out what activity works for you and your lifestyle.
I am so with you. And especially not as I do, a healthy living goal chats, not as often as food goal chats, but that's the thing. Test out the different options and do more of what makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Emergency.
Yeah. Life in La La Land. There's always there's always something going on.
Sure.
Yes, I love that. Think about what you want your life to be and do more of that, of what you need to do to get there.
There's only one person stopping you if you don't do it.
I know the answer.
I wasn't going to give you the answer because everybody should know that answer.
Oh,
Terri,
wow.
what goal are you gifting? I knew this would be fun.
Well, I'll give a dual goal. One plant-based goal. It's more of a tip of what I did when I was trying to get a grasp on the change. Is I just went on the internet and looked up any kind of meal that I would normally eat and just add the word vegan and recipe. And then that's what I would figure out how to make my adjustments. So it's not that I was depriving myself of anything, like Marisa was saying, is I was adapting what I already like to eat into a food system that was aligned with my values.
Ooh,
And
I like
then
that.
as far as being able to really learn to identify with what your passions are, I basically realized late that and maybe this isn't true for everybody, but my DNA has always been the same. So I started to reflect back on who I was in elementary school and middle school, in high school. There were certain things about me, my values, that were always consistent. I always cared about animals, and maybe it's because I was from the Bay Area, but I always cared about the planet and environmentalism. And yet here I am actually finally incorporating them into the career side of my life so later in life. So I would encourage people to do that self-investigation to see what's something that's always resonated with them, not just flavor of the week, but it's always and not necessarily in the same way, but the same core value.
I love that. Ooh.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So Marisa.
All right, so I'm going to be a little bit of a contrarian here. So you know that cliche of do something every day that scares you? I would say that for me, and what I want to gift everyone with is think of that as really just an openness to challenge yourself. I don't think that, I think it's hard to maintain your passion and reach for higher goals unless you're pushing yourself. And a lot of times that's going to be pushing yourself just outside of the comfort zone or trying things that maybe just a little bit or sometimes very unfamiliar to you. And, I think that, and maybe it's just because that's been most of my career, but for me, anytime something big has happened, it's because something kind of unknown and scary was kind of in the corner. And it's like, kind of like, come here. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, I'll go and see what's going on. You can always have a look and just be open. And if it's not something that, you feel you can sustain or hang on to, then you can always, go back. But it never hurts to try.
So basically, think outside the comfort zone.
Yes.
Love that.
Yeah.
Wow, this has been so much fun. Where can people learn more about each of you? Marisa?
Yeah, so you can check out my website, marisabaggett.com, and that will send you to a link to my weekly newsletter, Dear Sensei, where I share stories and recipes. And it also gives you information on how to reach me if you ever want to have an event or, get some sushi or something like that. So
Excellent.
yeah.
Love that. Okay, Terri, where can people learn more about you?
Oh, sorry, it was lagging for me. Yeah, you can check out my business website. It's Eat Healthy Crafty with a CRAFTY.com. Crafty is the nickname for craft services. And I do have an Instagram where I occasionally will highlight different small businesses that I'm a fan of and their snacks and beverages. But my website also has an email if anyone has any questions about plant-based food service or sustainability in production or events. I'm always happy to chat.
Wonderful. And Danny?
You can find out more about my company and the products we make at beforethebutcher.com. And there's a little bit about me there too. And for the future, enterthegray.com will be my book.
Ooh,
Enter the Gray Zone, actually.
I love the forward thinking. Good on you. And I am at the Deb Method everywhere. And if you go to thedebmethod.com/blog, you will get the recap to this and the other shows, watch the replay, get the goals. I am live every Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific. And you can also subscribe to Goalchat and Book Proposal Podcast on the Marketing Podcast Network. And if you are a foodie, you can learn more about Taste Buds with Deb at tastebudswithdeb.com. And if you need some help with your goals, grab a copy of 52 Secrets or your goal guide at your favorite place to buy books, whether you've got food goals, life goals. It's up to you to embrace and live the life you want, live your passion, and let that passion leak all over everybody else, emanate. Yeah, that sounds much better to say. Let your passion influence others to live with creativity, joy, and more sustainability. Friends, what final thought do you want to leave everyone with today? Terri, final thought?
Focus on it. This is going to sound cliche, but focus on what brings you joy, because there's enough out there to take that away from you.
Do you like to speak in understatements? Yes, I am with you. One thing that I talk about a lot is goal setting and goal getting in challenging times, but it's basically lean into your joy and do projects that make you happy, because that's going to counteract the rest of what's going on in the world. So I am 1,000%. I'm like endorsing everything you all are saying, except for the fact that I'm only part plant-based. Yeah, I'm just gonna start saying that. I am part plant-based. Danny, final thought?
Yeah, that part that's plant-based, that's your better half, I can tell you right now. So I'll just go back to what I talked about earlier, and that is find the lifestyle that works for you and live it. And don't let other people influence you. Influence yourself.
That's I have more engines. Is that like dropping a fork? If you say it and then an engine runs by, that means it's true.
Right, there you go.
I have something in your goal guide, it is a road trip theme. It's a roadmap for setting, planning, and achieving your goals. And one of my big things is no backseat driver. Figure out the life you want and just be all in. Be careful of who you share it with, because people will have opinions. But unless you know who you are and what you're about, or until you know who you are and what you're about, come to those conclusions yourself, live it. And then if you want to share it, that's fine. But you first, very, very you or me first, depending on what pronoun you want to use. Marisa, final thought.
Final thought. So my final thought leans into joy, but the way that I would say that you could do that is to find any and every opportunity to say yes. Sometimes we think, okay, we got to say no. We're always overcommitting, so we need to find opportunities to say no. And that might be true, but I think that, life is a yes game. And when you can say yes to more things that bring you joy, whether that's just in life and the way you're living it, or, the delicious things that you actually put on your plate, then I think that that's, saying yes is a great way to a nice, wonderful, full life of joy.
Life is a yes game. I think you should consider that for book title. Just saying. But it is true. It's a goal game too. We all have, and you all were saying this, I think specifically Danny, we all have the power to live the life we want. Take the time, gift yourself to figure out what that is, and do the things you need to do to turn it into reality. So thank you again, Marisa Baggett, Terri Freedman, Danny O'Malley, for joining me. Thank you for tuning into Goalchat, whether you're watching us live, the replay, or listening to us. Go live a plant-based life, or a plant forward, in addition to whether you're carnivore or not. But even more importantly, live the life that you want, that you deserve. So go on out there, go for it, because we know you can do it.